Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another Sunday talk within the Nine-Sided Circle. I am your host, Noor Kyle,
And I am her loyal sidekick, Mushtaq Ali.
and thank you for joining us, whether you're here live or watching on the replay. Of course, as some of you know, we had our talk this morning, our other talk that we do every third Sunday of each month as an accommodation for the folks who aren't able to join us at our usual time on Sundays every week. So, if you'd like to join us for that alternative time, it's every third Sunday of each month at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. And of course, at our usual time, every Sunday we meet at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. So, thanks to all of you who made it out here live. And of course, welcome and thank you to all of you who are watching on the YouTube replay. So glad to have you with us. Um, yeah, so again, like I said this morning, of course, given that this is recorded for YouTube, invite you to join our in supporting our work, if you will, by subscribing to our channel, liking videos, leaving comments. It's been an exciting time. For some reason, our video from last week had a bit of it was pretty popular, and it's exciting when for some reason things take off, and there
Yeah.
were lots
And
of
it upset a bunch
comments.
of people, which is also exciting.
I mean, it's nice to keep it spicy, right?
Yeah.
People enjoy that, and we enjoy getting to be ourselves through our spiciness. So there's that too. Um, Other ways you can support us are by, of course, donating, since this is our livelihood. This is the work that we do. We are committed to the mission of helping people not only become full-fledged human adults, practicing empathy, being able to establish an aim for your life, being able to see others as full-fledged beings in their own right, all of those things. And of course, staying awake, keeping each other awake. That's what we do here. And that's why this weekend we've been talking about the some of the most foundational practices, not only to our school, but to Sufism and the Gurdjieff school of work. So we've been indulging in talking about self-observation this morning. And this evening, we're going to be following up on that by talking about self-remembering. But again, if you'd love to support our work, feel free to donate. You can also sign up for private work with us if you want to work with me one-on-one or Mushtaq one-on-one or both of us together. We have a
And we
booking
will
page
gang up on you.
in
That's
the description. Yes. For your benefit, we will gang up on you. And, have a whole bunch of other links in the description for you to check out. That's where we have the donation links, the booking, all of that. Check it out. And without further ado, let's get to our topic this evening.
what is our topic this evening, Nor?
Well, tonight's topic, I guess, is titled Self-Remembering for Fun and Profit.
There you go. Full disclosure, the profit part is a lie. Total lie. But it got your attention.
God willing. Well, all right, let's teach people about the fun and nonprofit then, shall we?
Okay. So this morning we talked about self-observation, which is probably the single most fundamental practice,
Aside from breath work, which
aside
we
from breath
also
work,
think
which is
is
even,
very,
even
very
more,
important.
yeah. And at the same time, um, the Sufi terminology for self-observation is muhasabah. And for self-remembering, it's muraqabah. Uh, and it has a slightly different meaning. Um, but usually when you translate that word into English, it's translated as meditation. but it ain't exactly that. It is a way of training yourself to be present by observing yourself. So, most of the time, you observe the world. And this is called referential observation. Your attention is referring to something outside of itself. Does that make sense? Right now, y'all are observing me. I am outside of you, and you are watching me, and you're doing that with a certain amount of intention, which tells you that your consciousness is, in fact, intentional. You are not just passively receiving what is being given to you, but you are actively accepting or drawing in what is being given to you. You participate in the universe whether you know it or not. Mostly we do this through identification, but we don't have to. We can do this through conscious will. And self-remembering is the first step to that. So, everybody do this. Sit up straight-ish. And I would like you to take one breath, just one breath. Okay, that was all right. But let's take that breath with our full conscious awareness focused on the breath. So one more time with feeling. Breathe in, breathe out. Now ask yourself, am I awake right now? And let that question direct your attention inward so that you can see whether or not you are in fact awake right now. Are you awake right now? Don't focus on your thoughts. Don't focus on your surroundings. Notice your awareness as it looks within to check to see if you are aware. You become the observer of the act of observing. Notice this sense of awakeness within you. Notice your attention directed inward to that sense. It's okay if you close your eyes or keep them open at this juncture. And every now and again, check your breath and see how long you can hold this state. And the answer is not very long. So when you get distracted, rather than commenting on the distraction, just ask yourself again, am I awake? And use that question to drive you back to the awareness of your own awareness. Now, the next thing that will happen is that you will find yourself going back to sleep, dropping into a trance because you are deeply focused on something. And the trick is to stay awake. And the way you do that is through your breath and your bodily awareness. Your attention can be in your entire body. And you use conscious breath, what we call hashtardam, breathe consciously, presence in breath, to stabilize your attention so that it doesn't wander. And you can allow yourself to feel the body's position and presence in space. Once you get a little practice on this, you can do it while you're walking, while you're eating, while you're talking to somebody. That's pretty high level. Uh, but first, you do this just by turning yourself inward, reflexively allowing yourself to be aware of your own awareness. And that's all self-remembering is. It's nothing fancy. It's not all of the things that people who never learned it correctly told you that it is. And it's not something that can be used to control you. What do you think? Was that easy or what?
It's okay if there's an or what there too. Yes. How did everyone do with that?
Don't everybody talk at once. Yes,
Okay.
James.
Easy isn't the first word that comes to mind.
Well,
What do
Effective,
you
it's
want to use?
simple.
but it's simple. It's not a complex thing, but it's a demanding thing. The distractions, yeah, and losing the subtle feel of it, very easy. That's the easy bit.
Yeah, you've spent your whole life practicing being distracted, and now we're asking you to do the opposite.
But here's the thing, slipping out of it is okay. The important thing is returning.
Yeah. If you do this practice, I expect you to slip out of it about once every 6 to 8 seconds
Mhm.
initially. And if you were to get mad at yourself every time you do that, you'd go crazy. Do not beat yourself up for something that you're just learning. It's like riding a bicycle. Eventually, you'll be able to do it. But at first, it's a little tedious.
And as we talked about with other things, it's about getting the reps in.
Yes, I I consider myself to be fairly practiced at this, and I can certainly attest that with practice, it does get a lot easier.
Yeah, you get to a point where you can do this for whole minutes at a time. And I forget who it was, but some important person said, if you could do this for 5 minutes, you'd be enlightened. 5 minutes without break. I'm pretty sure that this is something close to true.
Who else might want to share? What? Yeah, Alka. Or um, Ian, why don't you continue and then Alka, you can follow up right after that.
Oh no, I had nothing else to say. I was just t turning off my mic.
Okay, no worries. Yes, Alka.
I was just saying that I have been practicing this and I can never do it more than maybe 5 seconds. But I enjoy it when I can do it while watching TV. That's like a really amazing, like there's so much going on, but then I go back to self-observation and self-remembering. I enjoy it that time. Um,
So
I
what?
feel that's a big achievement. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what do you do that reminds you to check back
Oh,
in?
I ask myself that question. Am I awake? Um, am I watching this while I'm awake, or is this mechanical behavior? And that's when, or when things are going strange for me, or I keep asking myself throughout the day, am I awake? Am I awake? And that's when I start doing this. But my favorite is that there is nobody around. I'm just watching TV, and then I ask myself, am I awake? TV is a very mechanical thing to see. You know what I mean? So it's like a different, I enjoy that too. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you for sharing. That's very interesting. Kevin.
Well, for me, the moment that I ask myself, am I awake? I have this initial burst of awareness of my body. Like it's a very somatic, interoceptive experience. Um, but then shortly thereafter, I fall asleep at the wheel, as they say, if I get too caught up in the awareness of the body or focus on a particular part of my body that may be aching or maybe surprising that I'm even feeling, then it sort of excludes or obfuscates m the act of being awake. So I keep asking myself that question. I come back to that question, am I awake right now? And then I revisit that initial burst and try to sustain it a little longer while still being grounded in the body. So that's kind of the dance that I'm experiencing with that. And it's an entirely somatic experience. So I thought I would offer that.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, I love how you mentioned that, even in the practice of, following through on this exercise, we can trail off into a trance about what we're experiencing in the body and fixating on something, or in another way of phrasing it, becoming identified with something that we're sensing in the body, which is just another way of watching TV in a sense, and bringing that question back to the fore. Hey, hey, am I awake right now? And reattuning in alignment with that. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, I would say from what you've described, you've mastered the first step, which is the waking up part. Even if you just do that over and over again, you're going to train yourself to recognize the awake state. And then it's all downhill from there. You become the Buddha, people come, they sit at your feet, they give you flowers. And of course, you were probably going to have hay fever, so it's bad. James.
Well, a crucial bit of it for not falling back asleep too quickly for me is, yeah, the internal sense in the body, but then the body's position in space. That sort of makes it go wide for
Yeah.
me beyond the body. If I just stay internally focused on internal sensation, then it just becomes a focus on internal sensation. No, it's no longer wakeful. So it's kind of following on from what Kevin was saying, but that seems to be a crucial thing for keeping some few more seconds of wakefulness is, yeah, I've got the awareness in here, but also simultaneously or trying to simultaneously for the awareness out here. I probably waffled that a bit, but
That's okay because what you're saying is correct,
okay.
even if you didn't know it.
I kind of thought that was it based on other things you've said and what seemed to be working and seemed to make sense for me. It certainly couldn't just be an interior focus, but if the interior focus isn't there, that seemed to be the external focus comes a bit sort of spacey or sort of, yeah, I'm done.
Thanks, James. It's not waffling. You're sharing your experience. Thank you for that.
So one of the tricks in this is somatic anchoring, and this is why we do it in this order. We take the one conscious breath and we ask ourselves the question to enter that state. This anchors the state to the breath. And after a little while, you find that just taking the breath brings you back to that state. Isn't that wild? Just taking one conscious breath can bring you into a state of awakeness. What if it were that easy? Then you have to ask yourself, if one would do it, what would happen if you took just two conscious breaths, one right after the other, and you allowed that state of awakeness? And I'm not going to say, and what about 3 conscious breaths? Because then you'd have a movement. Dating myself here.
You can get anything you want.
Exactly right.
So what are some other places and times you guys might be able to bring this practice in? Alka, you mentioned while watching TV, for example. That's one that works for you. I'm sure others have their own.
I also have it when I'm hurting and I don't know in my body why am I hurting. I then try myself to say the same thing. Am I awake? And then I start observing my body during that awake state and release whatever tension that is sitting in the body
Hmm.
in an awake state. And that really relaxes me and I can move again easily. Um, I I've started noticing I get stressed easily. I have a stress body, like, and then I start getting knots in my body, and I cannot move. And I have these throughout the day, so I keep doing this throughout the day. When am I awake? And then I start breathing with that awareness, um, like I'm doing it right now. And then I see that I have tension while talking to you in my shoulder. I don't know where it's coming from, maybe too much spa. But so I try to release that, and it really helps me to relax like a mini spa during the day.
Hmm. Okay. So what I'm hearing is you're doing a couple of different things. You're doing like 3 different things there, all of which are good. So you start with this sense of the self-observation we talked about this morning, which is okay, you're feeling some kind of way about the fact that there's pain in your body right now. Then you go into, what is that pain? Where am I feeling it? Without, interpreting it per se. And then using those insights to then move from observation to taking action. And then stepping
Breathing
into
there.
this self-remembering that allows you to be in the present moment and not hold so tightly to that idea of tension.
I like the way you said it. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
And,
got it.
allowing everything to be as it is, as Shanti likes to say. Yeah. Excellent. Now, Ian, I saw you heading for the button. Did you have something you wanted to share?
Um, the moment may have passed. I was going to say that uh, I too often practice self-remembering and self-observation watching TV,
Hmm.
um, particularly dramas, because I find that observing characters and so on it can be actually quite useful for considering different behaviors and perhaps seeing them in myself
Mm.
or something like that. But I think one of the things that I really need to work on is when I'm watching CNBC and the markets during the day, I tend to not ever think about waking up. I think I need to work on
There you go. Yes.
doing that.
No, that's great. Good insight. So, I mean, I know we're talking about TV, but any kind of story where I am able to observe rather myself getting identified with the story, like getting worked up about what's happening in some way. I'm very invested. If I catch myself doing that, I often use it as a moment to spur me to do a check-in. Am I awake right now? Obviously not, because I mean, now I am because I've asked the question. But up to that point, I wasn't there at all. I was in the story. I was existing in that world, deeply invested. And everything happening sensation wise in my body demonstrates that. So then I take a moment just to sit back and reattune to the real world, as it were. And there's a time and a place to get immersed in a story, obviously. But given that we are dedicated to building these muscles of being able to choose to step out of story, out of identification, hey, take any opportunity you can to test your chops. James,
I've found practice during walking to be interesting,
that's another good
particularly
one.
as working up on my style of walking itself is very therapeutic for me and a good sort of reminder because if I start to slip into my old style of walking, it hurts or whatever. So, but also when I when I'm walking down a main street and there's people all over the place. Now that's an interesting balancing act because I'm making sure that apart from not bumping into anyone, I'm sort of scanning people depending on the area I'm walking in for potential threats, to be perfectly honest, or other things. So walking practice, uh, keeping the healthy gait of walking as an therapeutic end in itself, as also a reminder, way of waking myself up. Because when I start to lose that gait and fall back into old patterns, and also having to simultaneously scan the environment, it's an interesting test and it's an interesting exercise. So,
Mushtak loves whenever people bring up walking practice, huh?
Yeah. And you know, another great place once you get adept at this is driving because you will be more awake and more focused on your environment while at the same time uh, being capable of responding in the moment. I used to do my self-remembering practices driving from Santa Cruz to Napa and back on pretty heavy highways, and the heavier the traffic, the better it got.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm touch gonna ask because I know we also talk about driving as a trance experience. So,
Yeah. So this is the opposite of driving as a trance experience. This is driving as a presence experience. And it's not something you do in the beginning. You have to get practiced at this. But it's a matter of letting your body do the driving thing that it needs to do, but keeping yourself present and aware of your environment and aware of yourself being aware of your environment. Very high level.
it does sound complex. It sounds like there are multiple things going on.
Yeah. Um, Practice by riding a bicycle.
Riding a bicycle.
Yeah. But walking is even better because anybody can do it just about.
I think one has to be awake in India all the time while driving.
India is a master class in that. I am
You
India has the
cannot not drive.
yeah,
Not
Yeah.
India has the best drivers in the world. Seriously. Because if they were not the best drivers in the world, they'd all be dead.
hmm Yeah, one thing we really, I personally definitely took notice of was the fact that, as many of us know, a tool in the hand or, on our body, whatever, becomes an extension of the body in terms of the way that we, um, perceive, like when we hold a pencil, the pencil becomes part of our bodily experience. And one thing about drivers in India is that you can tell their vehicle is part of their body map, and they maneuver so well because they've integrated that so thoroughly. Yes. James says, I'm sure the Delhi drivers are Buddhas behind the wheel, even when the traffic is slow. They get angry, but even as I saw, like there is an expectation that sitting in traffic is part of the deal. And passers, pedestrians zipping across the street, cows hanging out, all of that is part of the
People driving the
everyday
wrong way
package of
down the
driving.
street.
What's that?
People driving the wrong way down the street. That part.
Yes. No lanes. So you do have to be very aware. You do have to be extremely aware.
I learned early on to simply accept, as a passenger, just to accept my fate, which has its own kind of spiritual lesson. Otherwise, you'd be going.
Yes.
So,
The practice of surrender.
hmm.
Yep.
I'm sure this isn't on the level of Delhi, but I can tell you from past experience, because it's been a long time since I was there, that central London is pretty damn hard to deal with as well.
Central London is hard, but Londoners have a certain sense of propriety that you
Oh.
don't find in certain other parts of the world,
Mm.
in my experience. But it's been a long time since I've been in central London too. It might have gotten worse.
Someday I'll be able to see for myself.
Anyway, I just did something that I've been meaning to do for quite a long time, and that is to write. It's probably not coming up on the screen well. Breathe
Breathe.
as
Breathe.
as something that I can put here and remind myself during the day to
What a good idea.
to not get quite into such a trance.
Yes.
We'll see how well it works.
Watching the tickers and taking a breath.
There's just a lot of information to keep track of, and it keeps moving around. You think that things have settled down, then something happens, and you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Hmm.
So this is it, really. This is what self-remembering is. And anybody who tells you different, to plagiarize from one of my favorite movies, is trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
Well, I might be repeating myself, but in my own experience, that initial capacity for observing the internal states directly is a necessary anchor. Because if you haven't got that, well, either you get distracted internally or you space out externally. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it works for me. That is a necessary prereq, as well as it can, internal observation can help you let go of various things as well. But uh, which brings to mind my experience with the sort of neo or pseudo Advaita crowd, who often seemed to me to be chronically spaced out, mildly dissociated
Um,
in their,
yeah.
or at least a lot of people I ran into. I don't know how representative that is of the movement as a whole. It is, or at least it was, a big movement. Um, but there seemed to be a kind of a disembodied, spacey, disconnected, yeah. Um, and because, no concept was real, the body is a concept, so the body isn't real. Da, 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 da. I mean, I'm sure you've bumped into this kind of
Well,
stuff.
Oh, yeah.
we know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
James. That kind of that dissociated disinvestment where it's just kind of it's it could be considered performative in some ways
Okay.
because they're not actually experiencing the non-duality of it all. They're just kind of in the story of what that is.
Yes.
Yeah. The bottom line is, if you're going to be non-dual, non-dual means not two. Could be three, could be 496. But if they mean unitary, then you cannot talk about the body as illusion. It doesn't work because that's two. When you talk about reality and illusion, you are not being non-dual, you are being exactly dual. Just a
I,
thought.
they were
I like
some of the
to
most
comment,
savagely
guys.
dualistic people I've met. It's just that most people are dualistically obsessed with form and they were dualistically obsessed with emptiness. Um, and so I'm going to go on a whole spiel here and stop. I shall cease my whinging now and my subtly implied spiritual one-upmanship.
There you
Oh.
go. That's okay. We know that you're just as messed up as they are, so it's all good.
All right. Do we have any thoughts from the folks we have not heard from yet? Oh, my tongue is growling. What's on your mind? Yeah.
Um, I've just been thinking as you're talking and looking inwards to see how it unfolds for me. And I find that the self-accounting, which I believe is the self-remembering, the muhasabah, and the muraqabah, they kind of dance together for me.
They do.
The self-observation
Yeah,
and self-remembering. Yeah.
yeah.
Muhasabah,
The
muraqabah.
the muhasabah is like the self-accounting. Like I find I'm in the story of it. Was it like this? Was it like that? Or the self-critic comes out, or the one who's trying to make sense of things, the reasoning, all of that's playing up. And then the muraqabah comes forward and I observe that. And in observing it, I can let go of what needs to be let go of. And then the action comes, which I then think that must be the witnessing, where I just witness thoughts fall into actions or actions fall into surrenderance, kind of that there's this whole dance happening all together. And then there's the one that's witnessing it. And it's non-graspy, it's non-attached, it's not trying to label things either. There's just this acceptance, and whatever's on the shoulders that are weighing down just seem to drop and dissolve, and the breath comes into homeostasis, or what is it called? Like I just find I can breathe better. And I think just maybe how did it come to this point of where I can just naturally fall into it now, much more than ever before, is maybe the practices of trying, observing, watching, like literally doing it as a practice, which has allowed it to be embodied in some sense.
Yeah.
And we don't know which practice is going to be the one that's going to drop the penny. So we continue the practice. And, while it was all up here in the head, I started recognizing it's more down here now. It's more in the body. It's more in the heart now. Yeah. Multiplicity, duality, unity, call it what you want. It's all playing together, right? It's where we're standing and where we're observing it from that makes all the difference. And the more we practice this, am I awake? What's going on right now? Turning the gaze inward rather than getting fixed at the things outside, the story outside, but just putting that gaze in, somehow collaborates, or what's that word, where it just puts everything into its place.
Just collates. Collating is putting things in their place. Corroborating
like it just
verifying them.
It's
It puts
automatically
everything
just
in its
brings all
place.
it puts everything into its place, and then
Coordinates.
coordinates it, collaborates it, whatever. Like it just brings everything, drops into place, or you realize everything's already in place.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fighting stops, the struggle drops. Doesn't mean you don't tie your camel. I mean, you do what you need to do still. It's not so fantastical. It's just so ordinary that we miss it. Maybe, and that's how it's been for me anyway. I'm realizing more and more the sacredness in the ordinary, and just showing up for life is the witnessing going on how the mind can get caught up, or the body can get caught up, or the outside, the zahir, we say, what's apparent, or the batin, what's not apparent. They're all just doing their dance. Yeah, it just makes more sense when we talk about it in this way. And seeing other people on the same kind of pages makes it much more digestible, and you don't feel abnormal so much. Right?
Yeah. We're in good
Yeah.
company, us weirdos. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to share.
Beautifully put. And one thing that comes to mind is we had the opportunity in the beginning of this session to do the practice. Of course, it's going to be different when we're doing it alone without the distractions of cameras and Zoom and all of this other stuff. And what we're talking about here, there is a degree to which we can feel it intuitively, but this is kind of the intellectual part, the part that goes deeper and becomes intuitive and more embodied is when we take what we learn in these discussions and then go practice, go apply it to our lived experience. And I feel like that's what you're talking about.
I totally agree. Sometimes some things happen in its natural unfolding, and then you find the name for it and you say, oh, that's what's been, happening for me. And sometimes it's the other way around. You find a theory or understanding, a name for something, and then you go out seeking how may that be in the technical form, in the practical form. And so whichever end you take it from, both the intellect and the heart needs to be at rest with it. Because if you have all these feelings and you have even the groundedness and all of that, but the intellect hasn't got a name for it or can't reason with it, there's still something missing. Or you got all the intellect, you got all the concepts, but you don't know it in the practice. Again, it's something. So both the reasoning and the emotions and the sense of the being needs to have both of those lenses to be able to witness itself. So important to talk about it, to explore it, and equally very important, maybe sometimes even more, to then put it into that practice. And that's when that two lenses, just do it. And the two lenses open up. You see the outward and the inward. And then, the awal and the ahir, the beginning and the end, all just fit. It just fits.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a blessing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And that really drives home the idea, as I like to talk about, and Mushtaq does too from time to time, that the body is the interface. This is where things happen. And this is
The
where
only place where things happen.
it is the place where things happen, the locus of action. And it helps us remember that when we take the head and the heart and make sure that they're doing what they do in the body. I feel
Absolutely, because denying the body just doesn't work. It gives you a spiritual sense for a while, a little play, but it does not work. Working with in the field of psychology and all kinds of levels of sanity or insanity, the importance of the sense of saneness, the sense of making, sense of things that allows you to function is so important. So disregarding the body might feel for a little while as if you're just flowing through things, but it's a false flow, because the body needs to be, the body is the anchor, and without being anchored on this plane, in this level of consciousness that we're here, which is called alami shahada, the realm of witnessing. So to be able to witness in this realm, you need to be anchored enough to witness. So
yeah, I feel like that's, people talk about I'm saying this in a neutral way. More woo things like astral bodies and all of that, but even none of that personally I feel can happen in this life without some kind of anchor in the body. And there's no getting around that. Yeah. Thanks, how are you doing, Jill? You can, if you want to pass on speaking, that's okay, but I just want to check in.
Thank you. Doing good. And yeah, no special thought and form right now.
Just glad to have you here. Thanks, Jill.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. And I know Kay is in the wings too. Good to have you here too, Kay. If you have any thoughts you might like to share, Kay, in the chat, definitely feel free while we head towards a close.
Yeah,
Anything you
wrapping
wanna-
things up. It's time
Yeah.
to make some soup.
What kind of soup are we having?
We're having the vegetable soup.
Vegetable soup.
Kevin
Bread.
has his hand raised.
Yes.
So I watched the replay on the this morning's talk, and you had mentioned putting up the steps for self-observation on the
Yeah.
forum, and I'm wondering if you would be able to
We're
do
going
that
to do the
for.
exact same thing with this. I just have to edit a little bit to remove my secret notes. The ones that say, don't be an idiot, tell them about this. Embarrassing.
I love
But
it.
yeah, we'll edit both of these up and have them up within a day or so.
Yeah, it'll be
And
within the week, and we'll make sure that we get that done. So thank you for bringing our attention back to that, Kevin. We have not forgotten.
and I wanted to mention that I noticed that even though they turned Parvati Ball back at the border and totally destroyed the San Francisco and the Taos concerts, there is going to be a concert on Zoom tomorrow
Oh
from
my gosh,
India for free that you can go to.
what are the deets?
It will be uh, 8:30 a.m. Monday, the 19th of May, which is 8 p.m. In India.
And that's Pacific time?
It's 8 p.m. or
8
8 a.m. because 8 p.m. So it's today
Yeah.
evening because it's
Yeah.
already
Right.
8:15 a.m.
It's going to be morning, however that works out. But what you need to do is go to, where is it? Programs at parvatibal.com, and she spells her name PARVATHYBAUL.com, and you can get a link to go to that very thing.
Hot tip.
Yeah. Yeah, as we say, screw the man. We're going to listen to the music.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for the update, Mushtaq.
Yeah.
That'll give some people a thing to check out.
Yeah, and for the people who don't know about this, because we were talking about it off air, she is a famous ball singer and dancer. Balls are sort of like if Sufis were Hindu, they would be balls. That's the way I try and explain it. Um, but she was coming here to do some concerts and hang out with people and generally raise the spiritual tone of the country. But our governances, in their infinite wisdom, decided not to let her into the country because who wants people who sing and dance here? That would be bad. They're also very colorful. Nobody wants people, these brown people coming over dressed colorfully. It would disturb the common peace and good. So they kicked her out. They wouldn't let her into the country. They held her for hours and stuff and then sent her back to India. But screw 'em. We can listen to her anyway.
Damn right. On that note, something
On
to
that
look
note,
forward to.
yeah, let me switch us over to
Brady Bunch mode.
Brady Bunch mode. Zot, here we are.
All right. So successful weekend. Yeah, check out both of these talks. We did the self-observation this morning, self-remembering this evening. They are very much intertwined. And as we go forward and begin to or continue to apply these practices to everyday life, keep in mind that this is a muscle that we build. It's okay to fall into forgetfulness and to get distracted. The idea is always to return.
And
And
there is a third practice that Gurdjieff
there
doesn't talk
is
about, but we
a
do, called
mysterious one.
self-witnessing,
Yeah.
uh, which takes this all and puts it back together. But it is so rarefied in how profound that it is that you need to practice the self-remembering at least for several weeks before you do it. So,
So, as I say, get the reps in and
yeah.
we'll
And then
continue the
we'll teach you
conversation.
about self-witnessing again.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it.
Well done. Thanks
Yeah.
for
As
hanging out with
always,
us.
it's a pleasure to have everybody here. This place, this talk is nothing without you. It would just be Noor and I staring at each other.
Stare.
Stare.
The silences would stretch
Yeah.
on as we
Eventually
gaze.
it would be, what do you want for dinner? What do you want? I don't know. What do we got? We got all the things. Pick one.
Just like in real life. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for contributing your amazing thoughts and feelings, as the case may be. All right, we can wave to each other. Wait to everybody watching on YouTube. Take good
And
care. We'll
we'll
see you again
see
soon.
you next time.